Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We're going to wake up the Rog monster and get this show on the road here on Friday, the beginning of the weekend. Good morning.
All right, one bathroom break away. All right, give me a second.
Okay.
Almost there. Why is there's always something in the way? Ooh,
You're
that's a
muted
lot of
on
food.
Discord.
Yeah, it's good because I'm moving my mic.
But I can still hear you on your phone.
Wait, on that. Let's see. Yep. All right. Almost ready, I guess. I got my stories. Let me put them up on the screen.
Okay, we'll just cover the picture one. Right. Today on Before Coffee, Macron and Schultz urge Kosovo to hold fresh elections to ease Serbia tensions.
Fast-moving New Jersey wildfire expands to 3,100 acres in state forest.
Lake Maggiore deaths. Why were Italian and Israel Secret Service agents on a boat in northern Italy?
Florida is being attacked by flesh-eating bacteria.
Protecting Bosnia and Herzegovina's anti-fascist legacy. Most stars partisan memorials to cemetery.
And the Senate passes the debt ceiling legislation. Today on June 2nd, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
Okay, let's get started with our first story here about the meeting that they've been having since yesterday about everything that's going on in Europe. Kosovo has been urged to hold new elections in the north of the country to de-escalate tensions with Serbia after an intervention by Olaf Scholz and Emmanuel Macron. The leaders of Serbia and Kosovo were invited to an impromptu talks at the close of the summit of 46 European leaders in Moldova on Thursday evening. Earlier in the day, tensions had flared with the Serbian president Alexander Vučić accusing the Kosovan counterpart Vjosa Osmani of refusing to talk to him at the summit or enter dialogue over what he said about sham elections across the border. I mean, they were legal elections because the Serbians purposely did not vote. So they weren't sham elections. When somebody does a protest vote and they don't vote at all, that's still a legal election. But I guess they're going for, you didn't reach like a lot of turnout. So then you should not, I think that's what it says in the next paragraph. Kosovo's ethnic Serb minority boycotted local elections in the north in April, allowing ethnic Albanians to take control of local councils despite a turnout of fewer than 3.5%. So they're saying, like, nobody voted, hence you don't deserve to be in power. Some countries do have rules against that. If you don't reach a certain percentage of population, they're like, this election doesn't count. Nobody, like 10 people voted, and we can't determine our democracy off of 10 guys. It's very clear that the Kosovan authorities bear the responsibility for the current situation, Macron told reporters in Moldova, saying there was non-compliance with an agreement that was secured just a few weeks ago. We have asked two parties to organize new elections in these four municipalities as soon as possible, with an undertaking from Kosovo with participation in these elections in a clear manner part of the Serbian side, Macron said. Osmani said she had told the European leaders that this would be possible under Kosovan law if the Serbian leadership in Belgrade did not encourage Serbs to boycott the poll. It requires bravery by all involved because they will need to play their part in positions of political responsibility. Sorry, there's like 4 P's in a row there. Play their part in positions of political responsibility to ensure that de-escalation succeeds. Violence erupted in the northern Kosovan town of Zvečan this week as Serbian protesters clashed with NATO peacekeeper forces who were guarding Albanian mayors entering their new offices. The unrest, which resulted in more than 60 injured on both sides, marked the worst violence in the region in over a decade. Kosovo Prime Minister has blamed unrest on fascist mobs controlled by the government of neighboring Serbs. But despite such allegations, yes, an allegation, like, let's please not paint this as an ethnic issue. Please stop. Dr. Helena Ivanov has an associate research fellow at the Henry Jackson Society think tank, said the protests were driven by accumulated grievances and 18 months of worsening relations between Serbs and Albians in North Kosovo. Yeah, if you ignore a problem long enough, sometimes it bites you in the ass. Who would have thought? Serbs, a majority in northern Kosovo, have never accepted its 2008 Declaration of Independence from Serbia and still see Belgrade as their capital more than 20 years after the Kosovo War. Maybe they should just go move there then. I don't know. In recent months, a string of incidents have ratcheted up tensions. In November, Kosovo announced plans to fire ethnic Serb residents who refused to surrender Serbian-issued car number plates. Kosovan Albanian special police forces have stepped up their presence in Serbian areas, and several ethnic Serbs have been shot and injured. This year, the government in Pristina backtracked on a 2013 EU brokered agreement that would grant Serb minorities in the region their own association of elected mayors. Serbs boycotted the election of new mayors, and ethnic Albion candidates were elected in 4 mayoralities, in votes with a single-figure turnout. 3 people came and voted. Serbs complained that the new mayors lacked a legitimate mandate, and because you made it that way. I mean, like, they just want to go back to Serbia? Is that the only solution? Take us back to Serbia. We don't want to be we don't want to be Kosovo. We want to be Serbia. Yeah, well, there's no solving that problem. They're making it unsolvable, I think.
I guess they could have voted in the election.
Yeah. When Kosovo Albanians
Radical idea, I guess.
Yeah. When Kosovo Albanians authorities attempted to install them this week, violent protests broke out.
Yeah, I don't see their point, so I guess I'm lost.
Yeah, I mean, I can see
their point. You had an election, you refused to vote.
They were in a place for probably generations, and then some people were like, we're Kosovoans, okay? This isn't Serbia. This isn't Albania. This is Kosovo. We've decided this is Kosovo. And those people were like, what's going on? Huh? What's happening? And then, you know,
you live in a place
there was a genocide, and everyone was angry, and then... Yeah, the border they now sit in is now a different place, and they're just like, ugh.
That's all of Europe, though. I don't know what the hell. I mean, like, we're different from all Europe because no one else has had a border drawn somewhere. Come on, man. I don't know what they'll expect. They're expecting I'm sure it's a religious thing, basically, right? They're probably like, oh yeah, you believe in that sect of whatever that says that green monsters rule or something. I don't know. People are stupid. That's basically why we even have those.
I have to personally go into the history of Albanian Serbians and why they despise each other so much.
Yeah, right? But why? Why? Who cares? Why do people hate each other for any reason? We got to know the reason people hate each other. Why? I don't think it's really important. I'm
trying to understand why this conflict is rearing its ugly head again. But
it's irrational. It is. I mean, it really is.
Okay.
It's just like
irrationality is allowed to exist in the world because humans are not machines. So
I'm not saying. Well, I don't know if it's okay. It's just humans are just selfish bastards for the most part.
That's just how life works. People aren't rational beings. We're emotional. A lot of our choices are emotional.
In spite of all evidence, we consider ourselves better than animals for some reason. Yeah.
Grievances have been stoked by misinformation on all sides. Russian Telegram channels spread unverified reports of tanks mobilizing at the Kosovo border. Serbian tabloids have claimed Kurti was driving Serbs out of Kosovo. Kosovans have said protests were bussed in from Serbia to stir up trouble. Exactly. See, like, it's all a manufactured conflict. Efforts have been made to de-escalate tensions. Peacekeepers have engaged in talks, and 700 new NATO troops have been deployed. But NGOs and analysts in North Kosovo say addressing the demands of Serbian minority will require long-term commitments. Ivanov of the Henry Jackson Society said, "We need new elections, and Serbs need to participate in them." This was an article from Camila Bell Davies in Belgrade and Lisa O'Carroll in Chisinau. On to your story.
Okay. Well, on the story we covered yesterday we covered Canadian wildfires in Nova Scotia. I got up yesterday driving to work and there was smoke all over the sky. I was like, wow, is that from Canada? It turns out, no, it was from New Jersey. A fast-moving wildfire. This is from NewJersey.com. A fast-moving wildfire that broke out Wednesday night in Bass River State Forest had grown to 3,100 acres by Thursday morning, state official says. The fire in the Pinelands led to the evacuation of about 40 people in Timberland Lake Camping Resort in New Gretna section of the Bass River Township in Burlington County, New Jersey. The State Forest Service said. The blaze is threatening 6 single-family structures, but those residents have been allowed to return to their homes following a voluntary evacuation. It was 15% contained as about 10:30 a.m., and none of the 70 firefighters battling the fire have been injured, officials said. A wildfire is burning in the Bass River State Forest in Ocean and Burlington counties in New Jersey, according to the Department of Environmental Protection. The fire ignited in the area of Allen Road and Bass River at about 6 p.m. Wednesday before swelling to 120 acres in the next 3 hours. It expanded rapidly overnight and was at 2,000 acres and 10% contained around 9 a.m. Thursday. The fire was already an estimated 15 to 20 acres when firefighters were notified of the blaze. Due to the extreme fire behavior, we are not able to get out of our equipment and safely attack the fire, said John Erlin of the New Jersey Forest Service at a press conference Thursday morning. We decided to step back and use indirect tactics and ultimately stop the forward progress. We saw the extreme fire behavior through the night, even with high humidity due to continued dry conditions. Officials said the 300-acre prescribed burn was conducted in a different part of the forest during the winter. That controlled burn, as well as the streams of swampy areas in the forest, are expected to help firefighters gain the upper hand and box in the effort, even though the dry and warm conditions are forecast Thursday and Friday. What we expect to see is this fire to move around in the containment area, said New Jersey Forest Fire Chief Greg McLaughlin. We see flare-ups, we'll see smoke, we'll see fire behavior that will increase and diminish over time. That's normal. That's something we want to happen. We want the fuel, leaves and needles, to be consumed to the maximum extent possible so we can be confident the fire won't reburn. The following roads in Bass River are closed. Bass River State Forest on the border of Ocean and Burlington counties, about 25 miles north of Atlantic City and 6 miles west of Tuckerton, so it's very close to some major population centers. Smoke from the wildfire is drifting into Cape May and Atlantic counties Thursday. The wildfire, which is not that far from me, so I did see a lot of smoke yesterday. The wildfire is the second this week in New Jersey, a 150-acre wildfire that burned from Monday into Tuesday in the wildlife management area in Gloucester County was fully contained by Thursday afternoon. No one was injured, and there were no evacuations during the fire in White Oaks Wildlife Management Area in Monroe and Franklin Township. So it's one of these cases where they did their spring burnings of all the dead leaves and needles, and it's helped contain the fire that eventually did break out through whatever reason, carelessness. Your story.
Okay, well, it is the season for fires, so watch out there. And
it's getting hot too, by the way. There's a heat wave hitting the northeast.
Have your emergency fire kit ready so you can run out of the house. Because they spread really fast. I don't know if you've ever seen that film about the firefighters who died in a blaze.
There's not a lot of forest for a lot of those places too, because they've already burned out so they can't attach onto the dead
leaves
stuff that's not there now, right? Yeah. So the spring burn is what it was. It worked. It did as so forest management, prevents forest fires.
Who would have thought?
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, in news in Italy, Lake Maggiore deaths. Why were Italian and Israel Secret Service agent boats in northern Italy? This is from Angela Giuffrida in Rome and Oliver Holmes on The Guardian. It reads like a pitch for a thriller. A group of tourists board a boat on a beautiful lake at the foot of the Alps. Boat capsizes in a sudden storm. 4 drown as others swim to safety. In the days that follow, as authorities struggle to trace hotel bookings for the passenger, it emerges all were affiliated with the Italian and Israel Secret Service. 5 days after Goduria, a 16-meter houseboat, was swallowed up by Lake Maggiore, there's a growing speculation over what its passengers were doing in the corner of northern Italy. On Thursday, a police source working on the investigation confirmed that 8 of the boat's 21 passengers either currently or formerly served with Italy's Secret Service, and 13 had ties with Israel. 2 of the victims, Claudio Alonzi, 62, and Tizina Barnobi, 53, had worked for the Italian Intelligence Authority. Another was a 50-year-old retired agent with Israel's Mossad spy agency. The 4th was Anya Bozgova, originally from Russia, who was crewing the boat along with her Italian husband, Claudio Carmianati, the boat's skipper. Carmianati is being investigated over the deaths. Carmianati and Bozgova, who were reportedly unable to swim, ran a company called... Wait, they can't swim, but they run a boat service? That's why we have boats, so we don't have to swim. I think it's really important to still be able to swim. Alright, not to, blame the... make fun of them or anything, but... what? Hello? That also sounds like something from a pitch for a movie right there. So, a couple who can't swim run a boat service.
Well, you don't have to swim if the boat never crashes. What's the problem?
Yeah, exactly. I guess so. They ran a company called Love Lake and provided a boat and breakfast service on Goduria, which only had a capacity for 15 passengers, so they're already over capacity. The group boarded the boat, which was registered in the Netherlands at Picalooga shipyard in Lasanza on Sunday morning for what was reported to have been a birthday celebration. Yeah, maybe it was the birthday of a long-running Italian Secret Service guy, and he had friends in the Israeli service. That's not weird. I mean, it is kind of weird because they're nowhere near each other, but... The police source said the group toured the Borromenian Islands, an archipelago on the western side of the lake, and stopped off for lunch on Isola Pescatori, Fisherman's Island. The boat capsized in a sudden and violent storm on the lake on Sunday evening, with the survivors either swimming to shore or being pulled to safety by other vessels. The investigation is only looking into the skipper's role in the accident and not the background of the agents or why they were in the area. Oh, so you think, somehow they could have not capsized, I guess, in a storm? Seeing as they can't swim, they probably don't know how to deal with storms. I don't know. I'm just saying, it's very weird. Reports in the Italian press alleged that the group had met for work reasons to exchange information and documents, and that they only stayed on for a couple of days of leisure after the Israelis missed their flights home. That's a very... did they get that report from somebody or they just made it up? One theory reported by Corriere della Sera is the agents were in the Lake Maggiore to spy on Russian oligarchs, who have reportedly been buying villas and hotels in the area, circumventing the EU's financial sanctions against Russia over the invasion of Ukraine by funneling money into Italy from Swiss bank accounts. Another theory is that Israel agents were monitoring contracts between Iranian firms and Italian ones based on the Lombardy's industrial zone. But there's Secret Service. Why do they have to be there for? Doesn't Secret Service protect the leader of the country?
That depends on the country,
yeah,
man. Nobody has their own set rules. Okay. Secret Service can be anything.
The
They
agents
could be
who
in charge
survived
of planting flowers for all you know.
The agents who survived the tragedy left the next day. 2 business jets were flown from Israel to Milan, according to flight trackers, possibly swiftly returning the surviving Israeli guests. It is unclear where they had been staying. According to the Italian press, there was no trace of hotel bookings. I don't know where the reconstructions came from, but they all seem a bit forced, said the police source. Anyone can write what they want to. They could say that the boat was targeted by aliens. But what happened is that there was an accident caused by a weather event. I don't see a great mystery other than the fact that they hired a tourist boat on what was initially a beautiful day on a tour in a lake, maybe for a birthday. It's not your typical 007 occasion. A source at the Picalooga shipyard said The boat left from here, but I know nothing about the people who were on board. This was an awful tragedy in which 4 people died. That's it. The sources added that the change in weather had not been forecast. Unfortunately, they were wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, like they can't say, oh, they manufactured a storm. Like, no, we literally saw the storm happen. There was a storm, and they were in the middle of it. No, like, you'd think the Russians or the Iranians have the power to summon a storm to capsize a boat of spies or whatever. Like, what?
Possibly.
Israeli government censored briefly blocked reporting on the identity of the retired Mossad agent who drowned in a mixed confusion over what had happened and why he was in northern Italy. Basically, they're like, we're not going to talk about it. It's unfortunate. Italian news outlets had named him as Erez Shimoni, and on Wednesday, the original Prime Minister's office finally confirmed the deceased had served in the Mossad spy agency, but did not name him. Israeli agents often use fake names. The Mossad lost a dear friend, a devoted professional worker who for decades dedicated his life to security of the State of Israel. Even after his retirement, the office said in a statement, the Mossad mourns loss and shares in the family sorrow. It added that due to his service in the organization, it's impossible to elaborate on his activities, probably because they just happened, right? He probably just retired. This was...
He doesn't officially exist.
Yeah, right. The incident comes just 2 months after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Rome to boost ties with far-right Maloney administration. The two countries already trade in military hardware. It is not unusual for retired Israeli agents to be called up, and with reports that all of the passengers aboard the doomed boat were intelligence agents, there was a speculation in Israel about whether the trip was truly for leisure or partially part of a low-profile work trip. Which is probably why they can't reveal his identity or what was going on, because it probably could have been some sort of work that they're like, we're not going to reveal what our thing was, Okay, we fucked up. There was a storm. People died. It's none of your business.
Secret. It's called secret for a reason.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't put that name on there because it's a secret. That's why we did it. Is it it?
Yep, that's it.
All right. And we've reported on this before, the giant blob of seaweed that's basically surrounding Florida at this point. Florida researchers find high amounts of flesh-eating bacteria in sargassum.
Let's not
Tampa, Florida. This is according to News Channel 8 in Florida. Tampa, probably. You may have heard about the vast mats of smelly sargassum seaweed washing up along the south coast of southeast Florida. A new study from Florida Atlantic University is uncovering how the seaweed interacts with plastic debris and Vibrio bacteria to create the perfect pathogen storm for beachgoers and marine life. But first, what are Vibrio, that's how you pronounce it, bacteria, and what health effects can they have on humans? According to FAU, that's Florida Atlantic University, varieties of Vibrio bacteria are found in waters around the world and are leading cause of death in humans from the marine environment. The type of Vibrio bacteria known as Vibrio vulnificus is sometimes referred to as flesh-eating bacteria. What a pleasant name. Researchers say consuming seafood with this particular Vibrio bacteria can cause life-threatening illnesses. The Florida Department of Health says Vibrio vulnificus normally live in a warm, backwash seawater. Beachgoers with open wounds can easily become exposed through direct contact and be put at risk for disease and even death. In 2022, FDOH, Florida Department of Health, reported its 17 deaths and 74 Vibrio bacteria-related infections. It's noted, and the abnormal increase was due to the impacts of Hurricane Ian. What is creating this perfect pathogen storm? Since 2011, scientists as much as a giant blob of sargassum has rapidly expanded in the Great Atlantic Sargassum Belt. The growing blob has caused frequent and unprecedented seaweed accumulation events on beaches across Florida. In early 23, marine scientists tracked a 5,000-mile wide sargassum blue. Just image that in your mind if you can. So large it could be seen from space. By April, some of Florida's most picturesque beaches were covered in piles of the seaweed. Meanwhile, the researchers learned that the varying sizes of plastic debris had made their way to the surface waters of the Sargasso Sea, raising worldwide concern. Samples collected by FAU revealed that Vibrio pathogens had harnessed the unique ability to stick to microplastics within the seaweed blob. These findings further showed that some Vibrio bacteria had an omnivorous lifestyle that targeted both plant and animal hosts. Another interesting thing we discovered was a set of genes called ZOT genes, which causes leaky gut syndrome. Oh, leaky gut syndrome sounds pleasant.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I can't come to work today, boss. I got leaky gut syndrome. Well, stay the fuck home from me.
Don't even talk to me.
Don't even think about coming to work. We don't want you here anymore. Let's say for the next 6 months. For instance, if a fish eats a piece of plastic and gets infected by this Vibrio, which then results in leaky gut and diarrhea, it's going to release the waste nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphate that could stimulate sargassum growth and other surrounding organisms. So it kind of
really
feeds on
works
itself.
in a symbiotic relationship, doesn't it?
Creating a giant.
And grows some more.
Yeah, pretty soon this thing is going to be the only thing left on Earth, and it's going to consume us all. Simply put, the combination of the bacteria and microplastics could be responsible in part for the rapid growth, right? Just constantly snowballing. Coastal communities across Sunshine State look for solutions to rid their shores of sargassum. Researchers say caution should be exercised. Well, they should burn it for energy. Come on, do something with it. Right? It's a lot of dead vegetation, basically, getting consumed by these flesh-eating bacteria. Some cultivation-based data showed that the beach sargassum appeared to harbor high amounts of Vibrio bacteria. I don't think at this point anyone has really considered these microbes and their capability to cause infections, Mincer added. We really want to make the public aware of these associated risks. That's our story about the mysterious revenge of Mother Nature on us foolish humans and our audacity. Next, giant lizards are attacking Japan. Your story.
We are gonna get eaten by the giant floating gunk in the ocean. All right. In European cultural news, we've got protecting Bosnia and Herzegovina's anti-fascist legacy. In the cemetery in Mostar, built by the architect Bogdan Bogdanovic. His name is Bogdan Bogdanovic. That's his name. Which opened in 1965.
Bogdanovich?
Bogdan Bogdanovic. That's his name.
That's it. Bogdanovich, yep, that's it. You got
the most
it.
significant anti-fascist architectural landmark in the former Yugoslavia has been neglected and left as a ruin for decades. Having survived the 1990s Bosnian War, the Partisan Memorial Cemetery in Mostar now faces its biggest threat and possible disappearance, as organized neo-fascists are intent on destroying the necropolis and all it stands for. A small group of residents and activists are fighting to protect the cemetery and its history for future generations. But with a lack of political will and facing fear of intimidation and attack, the necropolis defenders face an uphill struggle. This is a story supported by the Pulitzer Center by Chris Leslie. Mostar is the bucket list city for every tourist to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Its old town features pre-Ottoman, Eastern Ottoman, Mediterranean, and Western European architectural features, and the rebuilt UNESCO-designated Old Bridge that dates back to 1459. Every spring and summer, the old town is visited by tens of thousands of day tripper tourists and backpackers. Yet only 10 minutes away on the west side of the city is another equally important historical landmark that sits abandoned and partially destroyed, where few tourists ever venture. The Partisan Memorial Cemetery has no clear visible ideological design or signage. It was supposed to make a shared start for an ethnic group that made up Yugoslavia after the Second World War. Mortars lay flowers on VE Day on the section of the park where the remains of unidentified partisans are buried. Built between 1959 and 1965, the Partisan Memorial Cemetery is a park dedicated to those who died fighting as Yugoslav partisans against the independent state of Croatia, a puppet state of Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. Built and designed by renowned architect Bogdan Bogdanovic, it is listed as a national monument. I'm just sorry. I just love how his name's repeated twice. That's why I'm laughing. I just love that it's like his name twice.
Yeah.
Is listed as a national monument and was once labeled as the crown jewel of Mostar. The well atop of the memorial was once part of a design which water flowed through the site, mimicking the Neretva River, and flows through Mostar, symbolizing the tears of the young partisan fighters. Wow, that's so artistic. Bogdanovic was commissioned to design dozens of monuments and memorials across Yugoslavia after the Second World War. His memorials would blend into the landscape, and sometimes taking over and becoming the landscape itself. His underlying message is all his works was life overcomes death. His structures were conceived as public parks, sites of everyday life that bring living and the dead together. His park does seem to be in the middle of nowhere there, just like, I know you guys can't see the pictures, but the picture is like just woods for miles. So it does seem like it's been, in a way, completely abandoned. Like, how do you even get there? Nobody built shops around it or anything. I mean, it is a cemetery, but... Built between 1959 and 1965, the park is dedicated to the memory of those who died fighting as Yugoslav partisans. Bogdanovic designed the necropolis as a city with its own protective walls and pathways, unique architectural details, and windows overlooking the city of Mostar. Bogdanovic combined his formative experiences of surrealism with architectural history and anthropology to create an abstract memorials of elusive organic shapes with references to the cosmos and the future. Each of its monuments was built with the intention of marking shared start among ethnic groups that made up Yugoslavia. The Partisan Memorial Cemetery was his most renowned and prominent in design, a hillside landscape explicitly conceived as a city of the dead facing the city of the living, to remind Mostar of the sacrifices made. So, it's really cool, but unfortunately, the most recent full-scale attack on the cemetery was in June 2022, when hundreds of stone flowers that bore the names of anti-fascist fighters, the place of birth, and the places of the years in which they were executed were smashed to pieces. Swastikas were spray-painted on the entrance pillars. The mayor of Mostar, Mario Kordic, refutes the claim that the attacks were organized by local fascist groups, and instead blames the vandalism on individuals. Local police said that there were no witnesses, so they were unable to investigate the June 2022 attack. Some in the city claimed the police's inaction is part of the problem and evidence of wider political forces at play. So, a small group of residents and architects and activists in Mostar are now fighting to protect the necropolis and its history for future generations. In March 2023, local architect Senada Demirovic and her organization Urban House IDEAA successfully pitched for the Partisan Memorial Cemetery to be listed among the cultural heritage group Europa Nostra 7 most endangered monuments and heritage sites in Europe, as a last-minute attempt to attract international attention and possible rescue. However, faced with the lack of political will and funding, difficult living conditions across Bosnia and Herzegovina after the 1990s war, and fear of intimidation in a dividend city, the cemetery's defenders face an uphill struggle. So, let's hope that, more tourists just go there. That's really all they can do, is just more tourists go there, explore the cemetery, and then maybe they can say, oh, we can make money from this, and then they'll keep it up. That's the only thing I can think that you can do. That's how you convince governments these days to do anything. Oh, we can make money, even though they're not corporations, they're just governments, but they all think about how they can make money.
Yeah, sell tours,
things.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell them the Marquis de Sade is born there, or is buried there or something. Somebody famous long ago. Yeah, it's just put up a fake grave marker.
That's the end of my story.
All right. Okay. In United States political news, and hopefully a story we'll never have to report on again, the Senate sends debt ceiling legislation to President Biden's desk with days to spare. This is according to NPR by Claudia Grisales, Barbara Sprunt, and Vincent Acovino. Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer of New York walks away. With just days left to spare before the deadline, the nation to face financial default, theoretically, the Senate approved compromise bipartisan legislation to lift the debt ceiling. It cleared the chamber by a bipartisan vote of 63 to 36. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer celebrated the agreement by senators on Thursday, but to speed up consideration to send the bill to President Biden's desk. America can breathe a sigh of relief. Because of this process, we are avoiding defaults, Schumer said, ahead of a series of votes for the measure. From the start, avoiding default has been our North Star. So it's come to this. We have votes to do things we've already done automatically for nearly 100 years, and they're acting like it's a victory. The Senate spent much of the day trying to broker a deal among the chamber's 100 members to speed up the voting schedule, but along the way, Senate leaders maintained confidence the legislation will pass. I think we'll get there, but as you know, it's painful, Senate Minority Whip John Thune of South Dakota told reporters on Thursday. Ultimately, leaders agreed, which are not even words, to take up 11 amendments. However, Schumer warned none of the amendments could be adopted without passing the potential of default. All of them ultimately failed. Any change to this bill will force us to send it back to the House would be entirely unacceptable, but almost guarantee default. On Wednesday, the bill, the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, passed the House by an overwhelming majority vote of 314 to 117 vote. Which is hilarious because famously, you know who Lauren Boebert is? She's a big mouth conservative, not too smart, talks a lot. Anyway, she missed the vote.
Haha, loser.
Yeah, she got locked out. She was in the Capitol steps when they called for the vote. So once they gavel it in, no one can enter the chamber. So she completely missed the vote. I'm sure that's not going to be an issue on the election. The bill's opposition in the House, like in the Senate, resulted in strange bedfellows. Republican Senators Mike Lee of Utah, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, and Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders have spoken out against the plan. The plan includes new spending limits in exchange for increasing the debt ceiling for 2 years. I wanted to like this bill. I wanted to be able to vote for this bill, said Lee, who said it falls short from addressing the national debt. The Republicans could give a crap about the national debt when they are in power. I just wanted to remind you that. It doesn't exist when they are in power. But as soon as they're out of power, it's like, you're increasing the debt! Oh, okay. 25% of the United States national debt was achieved during the 4 years of the Trump administration. 25% of the entire history of the United States national debt was accumulated since 2017. Sanders has argued that the plan now raises concerns about threats of climate change. Graham had raised concerns the legislation does not include sufficient funding for defense in Ukraine aid. So Graham's one of those Republicans is like so pro-Ukraine, he wants even more money. In an unusual step during the votes, Schumer and House Minority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky released a joint statement noting that the legislation cannot block future emergency supplemental funding, such as additional aid to Ukraine. The debt ceiling deal does nothing to limit the Senate's ability to appropriate emergency supplemental funds to ensure our military capabilities and sufficiently deter China and Russia and other adversaries. Schumer said in additional remarks to the Senate floor, and respond to ongoing and growing national security threats, including Russia's evil ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine. The debt ceiling legislation was the result of high-stakes negotiations between President Biden and House Speaker McCarthy ahead of a debt default. With his narrow control of the chamber, McCarthy saw the plan to win support among majorities of both parties, and ultimately Democrats played a larger role than Republicans in the passage. 165 Democrats joined 149 Republicans to approve the bill. The deal the House passed last night, sorry for yelling, but last night is a promising step towards fiscal sanity. But make no mistake, there's no much work to be done. The fight that we're reeling in wasteful spending is far from over. So whatever. That's what Kevin McCarthy said about the debt ceiling vote, which is just, again, has been a formality up until now. Your story.
Just a formality.
As it has been since its existence, and at some point, I think somebody's going to sue and say the debt ceiling is unconstitutional because the 14th Amendment says the president must fulfill all debt obligations. Your turn.
Okay. In more culture news, thank you, Royal Blood, for heralding the death of real music. This is by Laura Snapes. Frontman Mike Cure launched a wave of memes with his petulant festival rant and revealed the sense of entitlement created by a culture that prized rock above pop. The Succession finale revealed in the nuanced pleasure of the self-own. Overplay your hand, you're good as dead. Grease the pull too fervently and you'll find yourself stuck on the top with only one fatal way down. But as far as the weekend in Schadenfreude goes, series creator Jesse Armstrong had strong competition from British rock duo Royal Blood. As some people may have seen by now, at the end of their performance at the BBC One's radio Big Weekend in Dundee, frontman Mike Cure unloaded on the audience for being insufficiently excited about their historic strum and drang. Well, I guess I should introduce ourselves, seeing as no one actually knows who we are, he said. We're called Royal Blood, and this is rock music. Who likes rock music? He got more cheers than you would expect, given that he just slagged off 80,000 people. But it wasn't enough. 9 people, brilliant, he sneered, and introduced drummer Ben Thatcher, swigging tequila straight from the bottle. Daredevil. It says it in parentheses. Daredevil. At the back of the stage. We're having to clap ourselves because that was so pathetic, he went on. He even got the BBC's cameraman involved. What does that say about you? He asked the crowd before flipping the bird and storming off. It was very much I am the eldest boy of pop petulance, and the subsequent memes have been accordingly delicious, as has the fact that the DJ apparently played the Macarena after their set and the crowd lost it. The caption, "We're called Royal Blood and this is rock music," has been appended to images including Sudi and Sweep on guitar and drums, Ernie and Bert, Father Ted and Father Dougal performing My Lovely Horse. Days later, the band are still trending on Twitter. Maybe they would have been better off playing Connor Roy's version of a real bar with chicks and guys who work with their hands in grease and sweat from their hands and have blood in their hair. Royal Blood's entitlement is self-evident, though it stems from an era where making major label Death from Above 1979 knockoffs was enough to land you on the cover of NME for 4 times. Not to mention that the small matter of sharing management with Arctic Monkeys, by far the most bankable yet increasingly hard to get cover stars. As the duo rail against bored pop fans in Dundee, it's worth remembering that most of what was hawked as rock and roll in the past decade were actually very well-tended industry plants raised with the expectations of adulation. I worked at the magazine twice in the 2010s when the lad-led indie music that had been bred better since the 90s was on the decline. The sharp edges of the early aughts new rock revolution had gone blunt, and blandly anthemic bands were shifted from the center of Britain's pop consciousness by the likes of Skrillex in his big EDM tank, barefoot solo iconoclasts such as Florence plus The Machine, and acts that reflected the growing intimacy of listening experience, whether The Burial or the XX. But that didn't stop an insurgent force of boys giving it their best shot at getting indie back on the charts, as the Vaccines proclaimed on their first NME cover. They were swiftly followed on page by Brother A Band So Awful with their Union Jack festooned videos featuring topless women in the bath. that I used a secret pseudonym to write elsewhere about the galling idea that these sexist dimwits were music saviors. More pressingly, the flailing music press was hitching its wagon to the obvious no-hopers with the aim of both parties getting to resume their former cultural primacy. Yeah, so it's like, rock is unfortunately dead for the most part, you know? Way back in 2004.
Yeah.
Even 4 years before Spotify popularized streaming, he concluded, the problem with rockism is that it seems increasingly far removed from the way most people actually listen to music. Still, we slogged on in the real music trenches, interspersing Noel Liam Gallagher covers with the likes of Peace, Palma Violets, and Jake Bugg, who all just coincidentally happen to have very good connections, whether at management, label, or PR level. This dogged hope that rock could muster its strength to nobble the now prevailing wave of solo artists and dance stars. Whether Sia, Sam Smith, or Ed Sheeran reached some sort of peak or nadir in 2014, when Arctic Monkeys' Alex Turner collected the award for Album of the Year with his infamous That Rock and Roll speech about genre's perpetually ability to research from the swamp. Yeah. Like, it reminds me of Machine Kelly also said the same thing when he got an award. He was like, rock's not dead. And I'm like, it's like, you're barely rock. You're pop
what
punk.
Are you?
Yeah. Let's be honest
rock
here.
and roll. Rock and roll is an American phenomenon that the British perfected, right? A lot of Europe did, but it was mainly British, right? I mean, there was, of course, right? German bands like the Scorpions, and you had your golden earrings and such. But England had all of the major bands, and then again, American bands copied British bands, right? Because Styx copied Yes, and everybody was copying Led Zeppelin. So the third generation was. So it's just been a back and forth between the United States and England, but it's been so diluted by now. It's like, right, what are you looking for? You're not going to find organic bands forming anymore because, for one thing, people's tastes change.
They've also unlocked the equation for making a rock band, which is why like a lot of these are just industry plants. But this is the equation for making a rock band. As Royal Blood were on the rise, so were the 1975. Their breakout second album, 2016's I Like It When You Sleep, modeled a successful evolution for the British indie band. They had the guitars, trademark camaraderie, and nice floppy hair, but had clearly looked to the boy bands for how to establish a fan base, i.e. by celebrating teenage girls, and their wide-ranging influence reflected the way most people actually listen to music. Moreover, they toyed with the idea of authenticity that the likes of the Royal Blood had used as both a raft and a cudgel, making the concept of real music look silly, especially when you consider the inconvenient truth that many of its artiest purveyors had killing connections and co-wrote their songs with former members of Snow Patrol. Not to mention that the idea that rock music is just better than rap or electronic music, with strongly of some increasingly outdated prejudices. There's nothing wrong with liking Royal Blood. Millions do, as their Spotify stats and recent adoring support slots show with the Muse Show. Wait, what? Adoring supports. Okay, they have support from Muse, which is a very widely known British band. There's also nothing wrong with being unmoved by Royal Blood and wishing they would hurry up and finish so that Louis Capaldi can get going. But Kerr's outburst reveals the foolhardiness in assuming rock's automatic right to veneration and coasting on unearned legacy. Now everyone knows who Royal Blood are, perhaps not for the reason they'd like. There you go. There's our
This Day in History, then.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for This Day in History. 1740. The Marquis de Sade was born in Paris. You know, the French nobleman known for his erotic and perverse writings. 1840, English novelist and poet Thomas Hardy, who set much of his work in Wessex, an imaginary county in southwestern England, was born. So Thomas Hardy was born this day in 1840. Short story. 1865, Confederate soldiers yielded to federal troops in Galveston, Texas, marking the end of the final land operation of the American Civil War. News traveled slow in Texas. Well, that's why they have June 19th as a holiday now, right? 1886, Francis Folsom, age 21, married U.S. President Grover Cleveland in the White House and became the youngest First Lady in American history at the age of 21. Wow. In 1940,
Wow.
Constantine II, King of Greece. You think we have controversies nowadays? In 1886, the First Lady was barely out of high school. Constantine II, King of Greece from 1964 to 1974, was born in some city I can't pronounce near Athens. P-S-I-K-H-I-K with a accent mark.
Yeah.
Oh. Shinko. Something like that. In 1941, American professional baseball player Lou Gehrig passed away at the age of 37, 2 years after being diagnosed with ALS. In 1946, in the aftermath of World War II, the people of Italy passed a referendum to replace the governing monarchy with a republic. In 1997, a jury in Denver, Colorado found Timothy McVeigh of militia movement guilty of murder and conspiracy in the deaths of 168 people in the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. He was executed in June 2001. So he only sat on death row for 4 years. In 2008, and that's very rare, a federal prisoner was executed, but he was a special case. American singer, 2008, and guitarist Bo Diddley, one of the founders of rock and roll, which we were just talking about, is completely dead and just squirming around on the floor, just going, I'm still rock and roll.
Yeah.
Well, Bo Diddley, one of the founders of rock and roll, died in this day in 2008 at the age of 79. And the main event they have on this day, and it's actually Encyclopedia Britannica, the website I use for this, Elizabeth II was crowned queen on this day in 1953 to 27-year-old Elizabeth II, the eldest daughter of King George VI, was crowned queen at Westminster Abbey. And she had taken the throne upon her father's death in 1952. Birthdays today: Johnny Weissmuller, American athlete and actor who famously played Tarzan. Birthday today. June 2nd, 1904. He was born in Friedorf, Romania. So, 1956. Mani Ratnam, an Indian filmmaker, was born on this day. 1953. Cornel West, American philosopher and political activist, is born. 1930. Pete Conrad, American astronaut. And we already covered the other ones. And would you like to know what day it is today? In several places. We only have a few of them. We have National Rocky Road Day. No, not a really bad road. The ice cream.
Rocky Road.
Rocky Road. National Leave the Office Early Day. Because it's Friday. I gotta go mail a letter. I'll be right back on Monday. Anyway. National Bubba Day. So if your name is Bubba, you go from being pitied for the other 364 days a year to having your own day. Congratulations, Bubba. National Rotisserie Chicken Day, where if you're a chicken, it's not a good day. International Volkswagen Bus Day, so take your chicken for a ride in the bus. And it's National Donut Day, so it's a really good day if your name is Bubba and you like chicken and you like donuts and you have an office job.
Aw, I wish I had a donut.
Donut ice cream and Rocky Roads. Rocky Road ice cream. And, of course, chicken that spins slowly around
Rotisserie chicken.
like it's on a
Stick.
carnival ride.
Right.
Wee, I'm a chicken. I'm a headless chicken. Wee. All right. That's it, man, for
All
this
right,
week's.
that's been Allison here from Europe, getting excited about rotisserie chicken, and I will see you next week for some more exciting commentary. Also, there will be a new editorial video coming out on Saturday about AI and how we think it's dumb, so check that out. There will be a new video after coffee on Saturday.
All right, on. Right on. Okay, and this is Roger trying to dodge wildfires and flesh-eating bacteria and politicians showboating for no real good reason on the June 2nd, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.